we should be live now. Just checking everyone if we're live. Welcome to a gaming conversation with friends with myself, stubzgaming. And we are live. We are live. And yet I'm here with a VJ. How are you doing?
Hello, sir. I'm good, sir. Thank you for having me back on the show.
That's good to hear. It's good. It's good to have you back. I've sorted the Discord out. It should be working. Everything should be working fine. Let us know in chat if you're not. And Daz, it wasn't that. It's the guest, a friendly pest, is joining us. He doesn't get home from work till about 4:15, so 9:15 UK time, and he'll be joining us then once I let him into the Discord server. But yeah, welcome to a gaming conversation with friends. We're back once again, and this week we haven't got RemovableSanity as he's gone on holiday, but by looks of it, he's in a mansion. He talks about maybe in the Lord of the Manor, and you should see where he's staying, VJ. He claims it's only one apartment of it.
Oh, I haven't seen that. Has he posted something on Twitter?
Yeah, he has. It has. It looks very Lord of the Manor like. Nice gardens and building. It looks very much like that. And then he calls me Lord of the Manor. He does. Potato internet, that's no. I haven't got.
It's probably his property's outbuilding.
Yeah, it probably is his outbuilding. He reckons it's not the entire building, just an apartment of it. So he says anyway. He says he'd try and pop in if he can, but I just said don't worry about it. You're on holiday, mate. Enjoy it. You know. But he says if he's got good internet, he may. But I says I won't worry. But no, it's how have you been since the last show? Because it's been a few weeks since we last did one, hasn't it? It has, I think. I believe.
It's definitely been a while. Yeah, I've been. I can't think of any of the. I haven't really been keeping up with the gaming news, so I'm not entirely sure of what has or hasn't happened. Other than I think it was Luke who posted the Spider-Man 2. Was it the story trailer?
Yeah.
And I watched it on the phone, on my wife's phone, and I thought, okay, this is worth watching on the big screens, and I did so. And yeah, I played the original Spider-Man, the 2018 version, and Miles Morales, and I wasn't entirely sure whether I'd be picking up Spider-Man 2, only because I'd only just finished Miles Morales, and I was kind of sort of got tired of web slinging, but it was just sort of so fresh after spending so many hours on Miles Morales. I thought, okay, I'm perhaps my appetite for it is quite full, but after seeing the trailer and potentially what the game's got to offer, and the fact that I like the Ratchet and Clank series, I think I'm probably gonna pick it up. So good trailer.
But I haven't seen the trailer, just the awesome console and controller they released. They released a limited edition Spider-Man 2 console and controller, which looks good. But you've obviously already got a PS5. You're not going to run out and buy another PS5 just for Spider-Man 2. No. It's not worth it. If you pick one up, it will be worth it.
I did upgrade from PS4 to the PS4 Pro.
Yeah.
And I did feel a difference.
You did.
So,
that's an interesting because there's a lot of people calling for mid-gen refreshes at the minute because they're going, oh well, it's not, consoles ain't up to it. I don't think it's the consoles, because I think it's just a lot of the developers ain't optimizing the hardware. It's funny how the likes of Sony Santa Monica with God of War Ragnarok and Coalition Studios and the top tier studios seem to be able to work the hardware, and all the third parties and other studios don't seem to be hitting the targets they want to hit. I don't know if it's just they don't have an in-depth insight into the console, but normally they hit their peak right at the end of the generation, don't they? I don't think a mid-gen refresh is going to fix anything on that side. It's quite keep seeing, because I'm sure bloody Phil said when he was advertising these consoles. I might be wrong. The chat might correct me, but I'm sure he was bragging about no, we're not doing any mid-gen refreshes this time round, and all this. But they did a lot of the time we do it to make money. But I don't think if you see a benefit from the PS3 to the from the PS4 to PS4 Pro, then that's great. You actually seen the visual presentation, but I think that a lot of it is the third-party studios are a lot better at doing the optimizations.
I say rather than seeing, I'd say I'd experience the difference, in the performance of certain games for sure. Especially, I think the first game I tried was the God of War 2018. I may have the timeline wrong, but 2018 God of War, I did experience a difference in the game. And sorry, did you say that you are for or against, or you don't mind, or you're ambivalent about the fact that there's a mid-gen refresh? If that's
there isn't. It's just people keep talking about this because there might be a mid-gen refresh. I'm not for it, obviously. But my point is, if you want to see the high fidelity, the high frame rates on a regular basis, you need to buy yourself a gaming PC. Because the consoles just are not hitting the mark. Mate, they are with the first party, with certain studios know how to optimize the hardware. PlayStation are very good at optimizing hardware in comparison. But I'm not for a mid-gen refresh. I don't really see the point in them. But
if you're a PC gamer, okay, I think it's like this, right? I used to run a general PC. I never used to use Mac. And I switched over to Mac, and I didn't like it. I said, look, I just want to go back to a Sony Vaio or a HP laptop. And then a few years later, I switched back again to Mac because I was just getting irritated with PC. And then obviously, iPhone came out and so on and so forth. I think it was around about iPhone 4 I adopted MacBook and Apple and so on and so forth. And since then, I just haven't been able to go back to Windows-based PC. So I think it really is about personal preference. I have a nephew that runs his PC, and I'm sure there's people in the chat that love operating their PC. But for me, I've grown up with consoles. I'm used to consoles. I like the controllers. I like the ease of use, and I'm happy to upgrade my console. I'm not somebody that wants to spend 3 hours, fiddling around with specs on in the settings, tuning up how I want to play the game. I'm happy to play the games as they are. What I'm saying to you is that as a console gamer, if there's an opportunity to have a slight improvement on my console and I can trade it in and upgrade for a small amount of money after having the machine for 2 or 3 years, then I don't see an issue with it. And I think that fundamentally, if that Sony can afford to release an upgraded machine for the same retail price point, while perhaps lowering the price of the current system, and retailers are prepared to offer a trade-in program, then I think the option of choice is always, I think, welcomed by consumers, whether you're a PC gamer or you're a console gamer, or whether you're both. For me, I'm primarily a console gamer, so I welcome it.
No, that's fair enough. I mean, just to confirm, obviously the chat have said that obviously there is no. Judd said, thanks, mate. There isn't actually an Xbox mid-gen refresh coming, but I was just talking about all the online talk, and there is a rumored PS5 mid-gen refresh, which, to be fair, I could see happening. But normally, if one does it, the other does it. It's kind of the way it is. I'm not saying it will happen. Just I thought it might be fun to talk about it because you mentioned the PS4 to PS4 Pro. You notice the difference, which is what you want. If you pay for an upgraded console, you want to see the extra optimization. Let's not say power. Let's say optimization. You do, because power can be overstated sometimes. It can.
I think there's 3 things here. One is that Sony, I think they've upgraded their headsets. I think they released the DualSense Edge, and they released the PS4 Pro, and I think that they want to keep their messaging and their sort of presentation, or the anticipation of their consumers or their fan base, on a consistent level. So a PS4 or a PS5 Pro would be kind of in line with what their strategy's been since PS4 Pro, and I'm happy with that. And if the secondly is that launching a new hardware, whether it does well or not, which it will do well, right?
Yeah,
For them,
yeah,
potentially speaking, it gives them the benefit of keeping their engineers on their toes, staying at the cutting edge in terms of technology, right? And thirdly, if the consumers are there, it keeps their brand and their product and their hardware, if it makes business sense, continually in the public eye. They're always in the conversation. So for you or for some say, well, this mid-gen fresh is not needed, it's this, that, and the other. But fundamentally for me is consumers, again, don't always know what they want. There's always a strategy behind all of these things. And the problem is consumers don't see the strategy. Okay. So and I don't know how many the PS4 Pro sold, but I can tell you now, if people are, you were talking about, before we came online, right, about people in terms of being educated or brainwashed, or however you want to put it, is consumers today,
it's
you
true.
buy things in the store, right, and everything is designed to be obsolete within a year. That's why people buy new phones, new cars, new washing machines. I mean, I think we were talking about in one of your shows about 6 months ago when, you in the 60s or 70s, you'd buy a washing machine from Arkwright's and it'd last you 20 years, right?
Yeah, that's Daz though. I was watching a stream of UK Dazras, and he was telling me because he's got Dreamcast and Sega Saturns, where the TVs, the best TVs to have them on, is CRT TVs, TVs. He said
Yeah.
his mum's still got one from 20 odd years ago. That when she buys a new one, he's having it in his room. Do you remember the 30-inch backbreaker TVs? They're heavy.
Yeah.
They're not thin. They're like really heavy. Them TVs. Now they made them to last, and clearly they did, but they don't make things to last anymore. As you say, it's unfortunate, but you just
I know
don't.
I know the Sony Trinitron TVs you're talking about, and yeah, they were like 100
Backbreakers.
pounds, 70 kilos. Yeah,
Yeah, very heavy.
yeah,
Very, very heavy TVs.
yeah. I remember the Sony Trinitron TVs and so on and so forth. And yeah, look, I think again, you buy TVs today, right? An LG or a Toshiba or a Panasonic or Samsung or LG or whatever, and you know that the operating system within that, given the way that they update the software so frequently, is going to be obsolete. I mean, we've got a few TVs in the house, and the oldest one, we can't give it away, to be honest with you. And when you do put it on, the operating system within it runs so slowly, that it really wasn't worth the few $100s that we paid for it, to be quite honest with you. So, and it really comes down to what you want to use it for, right? So
Exactly. That's exactly
yeah.
true. That is. If
So
you
so any upgrade in terms of pro systems or mid-gen refreshes, I think are more than welcome for me. I don't, unless someone in the chat wants to say otherwise, I cannot see a downside as to why you wouldn't release a mid-gen refresh because it isn't just something Sony say, we will do this, right? They obviously confer with all their studios. They know what their pipeline is. They've got engineers sitting there and working away, and if there's profit in it, and they can build it for the same price, if not cheaper than what they're building the current current PS5 for, then I'm finding it really sort of steadfast, difficult to bring up an argument in terms of why there shouldn't be one.
Well, it's true because usually what they do is with a standard PlayStation or Xbox, is over time they actually, a lot of people don't realise, but say, I don't know if they do it with the Series X, but they probably do it with the PS5. They change the chips internally without actually people realise. Many people don't realise they change bits for cheaper parts, etc. Whatever chip's the best, but over time they do change them, but many people don't realise. So yeah, you're right. PS5 Pro
I think saying that it's for cheaper parts may not necessarily
that's probably my bad wording.
Might be a little bit of slander there, but what I would say, if they have found ways to perhaps optimize the chipsets or the board configuration, I think it is, in terms of, and so not only is it more cost effective in terms of the BOM cost, which is bill of materials, right, but also what they're looking at is not just the BOM cost, is that they're looking at the assembly cost, right? whether they need manpower or whether they can do it with robots, right? And the speed and the efficiency that they can produce it at. And these companies, and in terms of how many systems that they sell, if they can for example, if they can save 3 or 4 seconds in the production process, that's the kind of, even the car manufacturing industry, that's the kind of level that they work to, and they'll spend 5, 10, 15, 20 million dollars in terms of making those in R&D, in terms of making those efficiencies in productions, just down to the sheer volume of product that they're producing, and it makes a massive difference to them over the long term.
That's a much better word than what I used. Thanks for that.
And I'm not saying that Sony won't look to pick up, the price of the plastic, or the price of the steel molds, or certain chips for a more efficient, for a better pricing, because I think we talked about this on your show, right? Initially, why the hardware systems cost so much is because they go with the tried and tested and the most expensive and the most reliable chipsets or components on the market at the time of launch, because they just don't want to have an issue. And what they'll do is that there'll always be factories in China that'll produce the same or similar functioning chips or components, but they need a significant amount of testing time by Sony before they will give them the seal of quality or seal of approval to be used. And that takes time, right, post launch. And then they are saying, okay, right, we will buy from you, from your factory. Because I remember when I was in China, auditing a factory, from everything from who they are supplied by, from goods coming in all the way to the end of production, and when product ships, to test that whole pipeline, would take a couple of months before we would say, yeah, okay, you're a factory that's approved by us for our engineers and a supply chain to use. So these things take time.
Exactly.
Thanks. And they take due diligence. Yeah.
Thanks for that, VJ. It's good to gauge a better perspective. It is.
There's a lot. You know what it's like on Twitter. People just post stuff and they show their ignorance, right? But the thing is, what I'm telling you, you can find it all out on the internet yourself, right?
That's true.
And it's just that I was lucky enough to do it, right? But Twitter, all YouTube, and all these things are primarily there for people just to show their ignorance, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's why I don't really tweet anything, just in case I fall foul of my own.
That's fair enough. And welcome to A Friendly Pest. How are you doing, mate?
Well, I don't know if my microphone's working or not, but I'm here.
I can hear you. So.
Oh, great!
It's
I knew I was going to be about 20 minutes late, but I thought I'd still be here before you.
You made it. I forgot to add you to the server the other night. I thought, I've not done this very well, have I? I normally add people to the server, then add the permission set up so you can jump straight in, but I messed it up. Sorry about that.
It only cost me about a minute, so it's all good. It's all good. How's everyone doing this fine Monday?
I'm okay, cheers. How are you settling into your new job? Busy, isn't it?
It's super busy. I like it so far, though. So I like learning new things, and I'm kind of applying the foundation of everything I've ever done before to this new task, try to make the world a better place, and I'm enjoying it so far. So even though I'm busy and I'm tired at the end of the day, I would say mentally I'm in a better place. So there's that.
Yeah, exactly. Fair play, mate. Fair play.
What are we talking about?
We're talking about something you were talking about the other day. Sorry.
I was just going to say now, Mr. Slapper, is that right? Oh no, sorry,
yeah.
That's someone in the time.
Pixel Slapper.
No, sorry, Friendly Pest. Now you've got me intrigued in terms of what you do.
Well, that's unfortunate for you, because I'm not going to divulge that. At one time I probably would have said, but I'm kind of a big deal now. I'm sort of a famous YouTuber at this point, and giving away my position or information thereof's not a good idea, I have several fans that tune in every week, and I just don't want the wrong kind to find me.
I see.
Maybe I'll tell you later.
He's a VR YouTuber. He's
famous.
Idea. He's famous.
I have no idea. Rather than, I think more than anything, let's call it a remaining unsolved mystery.
But no, if you want to know what we were talking about, something we were talking about or you were talking about with Wilmy Hood, and it's not that exact tweet, just in general about how people. I think it was something along the lines of mid-gen refreshes are needed because everyone by now expected the fidelity to be at 60 frames, much higher graphics, and basically the hardware. And some people saying the hardware's not up to it, and then some people, the mid-gen refreshes are needed. And then I was like, I don't really think you're going to get that from a mid-gen refresh, because you've got certain studios, don't you, Pest, that can hit their optimization to the PS5 and Series X. It's normally the top tier studio. If that developed, a lot of the in-house studios understand how to work the hardware. That's what we were talking about, because VJ mentioned that when he had the PS4 and he bought the PS4 Pro, he noticed the actual performance boost. Have you got any thought? Do you think mid-gen refreshes are needed? Because you've also got it from the PC perspective, because you don't really. From a PC perspective, when you do your own, don't you? You go and buy a load of new parts and put it in. It's very different on PC.
I think it is a conversation that requires a lot of nuance, and I don't think Twitter's particularly good for that.
It's not, no.
Because there are some games that don't run all that well, even on an RTX 4090, which is significantly more powerful than the current consoles.
Luke Steele.
So then
he was saying that.
Sure, there's some argument to be made that the more powerful you make the hardware, the lazier the devs become, right? And that's a trigger word. People don't like that word.
They don't like
that. But the fact remains, if they have more power, they need less optimization to realize their dream. So it's a real thing, no matter what words you want to use to describe it. I am very disappointed in the performance of the current generation consoles on certain games. I think it is significant. 60 FPS is a deal or no deal for me. And it's part of the reason that inspired me to build my new computer. But not everyone is sensitive to it. I've got a friend that can play games all day at 30 FPS, and it doesn't bother him at all. And he will swear up and down that he cannot detect the difference between 30 and 60, and I can see the difference between 60 and 120.
I used to be like that, but now I've got a PC. I can see it all. I go back to my console. I can see it.
Sure, I would much rather reduce resolution and increase frame rate if I had to pick one or the two, which is what I like about PC is you can tune your experience, right? You can turn down the resolution and the graphics to reach the frames per second target you want. I think that's more important for me, not just because of feel. I think it looks better. I think if you're on a hilltop and you're painting a camera and you don't want it to look like a slideshow, like you get up on a hilltop and Red Dead Redemption 2 is a beautiful game until you pan the camera, and then you have to pan it as slow as possible to try to take it in. Like I said, not everyone is as sensitive to it as I am. I don't believe that a mid-generation refresh will solve this, because I think devs will still put out games at 30 FPS. As much as I don't like mandating what devs should do, because I like them to have creative freedom, I would also like 30 FPS to go away. Because I played Redfall on PC and I was really enjoying the game a lot.
Why did you try it on PC then? I didn't bother to play it on PC because of the experience experience I had on the Series X wasn't great.
I installed it on the console just to see for myself, and it's unplayable on console in my opinion. I know some people have played it and enjoyed it, and hats off to them, but I think it's not only a matter of look and feel. It plays like a different game. It's like playing in mud. So to me, it's a huge deal, and I don't know how we can standardize 60 FPS. I would love that to be a thing. Delay it until we can hit that target. For me, it's super important. It's not as important to other people. I do not intend to buy another console right now as we speak. Unless you consider standalone VR devices consoles, which from a lot of perspectives they are. Outside of that, I don't even intend to buy, the PlayStation 6 or Xbox Next, whatever they call it. I've been burned too many times. I'm tired of paying for online multiplayer. I've had a lot of fun. I love Game Pass. I think I'm going to stay on PC for the foreseeable future.
You think?
Go ahead.
Sorry. Do you think that would you, as you're staying with PC, do you still have any Ultimate left?
Oh yes.
So when
Of course I do.
that runs out, would you, if you're staying on the PC side, would you stay with Game Pass PC? Because a lot of people don't know this has got PC. I'll be shocked if you tell me that the Game Pass app on PC is incredible, because everyone I've spoke to so far, the vast majority say that the Game Pass app on PC isn't too good. Do you agree with that? Because I don't
I
think it's
struggled one
great.
time. Like there was a game that I installed from it that wouldn't launch for some
Yeah.
reason because I had installed it on my D drive instead of my C drive, right? So I had to move it, and then it worked fine from there, right? So that was a very odd glitch that definitely hurt my feelings on the application itself. But in general, I find it adequate to find the game that came out, to install the game, and to play the game. And I don't really care what the app does outside of that to rate it beyond that point. If I can install the game and play it, I'm content. To answer your first question, I probably will keep Ultimate for now because my wife still plays on. She prefers a gamepad. She prefers console. Well, she's fine with PC with the gamepad, but
I'm on PC and I'm on gamepad as well. I use my gamepad
yeah, it depends
on
on
PC.
it depends on the game. It depends on the game. And if I'm streaming, I find that the gamepad offers a little bit smoother camera panning and stuff like that for people that are watching the stream. So I will do that too. I will use gamepad. I'm an average at best mouse and keyboard user, and I'm above average gamepad user, right? Just from my years on console. I will probably keep my Game Pass Ultimate for now, just because the wife gets use out of it, and I think so long as I play 2 games a year from that service, I think it pays for itself. So I'm content to keep it for now.
No, that's fair enough, mate. That's fair enough. I'll just see some shout outs to people in chat. Shout outs to, I'll just go straight up the chat. Welcome to Pixel Slapper, Masuku, UK Dazarus. Just going down the chat. Who else is in here? There's a few more. Sergeant Sentinel Gaming. Friendly Press is in chat saying let me in, I'll let you in. Warwick Gaming. VJ's in chat. That's it in a minute. But yeah, thanks everyone for tuning in. I've sorted out Discord because the Indie Gamer helped me out during last week. I was having issues, but now I understand a lot more now how to run it. I do. We've got the VR master inside. Are you working on some videos in the background, Friendly Pest?
None of your business.
Oh, I can see you on Steam.
No, that's actually my wife.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, she puts out, I think twice a month. She does these do-it-yourself beadcraft videos.
Oh, okay. I can just see Power Director open. Since
she uses my Steam account, you get to see. It looks like I work really hard on my videos that way.
You've been on it a lot recently. I thought he was working. That explains it.
Well, sometimes it's me. Sometimes it's me. I'm putting out 3 videos a week. Have been for a long time, so I'm on plenty.
What did I say wrong, Judzilla? What have I just said wrong? I don't get it. I think he's probably joking. What I've just said. I don't know. But yeah, it's good to hear. I don't know, because we'll ask you a question, because I don't know if VJ will be able to partake in it, but I'll ask this one to you first. With the advances in VR, there's something, because I've not actually, I haven't, only headset I've ever used is on the PS4. It was the PSVR 1, and it was at holiday camp. I'd sit down and I played Drive Club on it. I thought it was, well, it might have been my eyesight, because I struggled to see it. A lot of it was blurring. I don't know whether that was my eyesight or just the fact that it's a terrible game on the PSVR 1. That's my only experience of the VR 1. So obviously it's advanced a lot since then. Where do you see the future of gaming in general as it relates to VR? Do you think it's going to hit a point where it does become, because it's obviously, I know you disagree, but a lot of people class it as niche. Do you think it's going to hit the mass adoption eventually? Do you think you're going to get there? Because a lot of the games...
Yes, I do. I do. I think eventually it gets there. Now they're kind of combining the AR, VR, XR, right? Stuff like the X-Real glasses, et cetera, and so on, and what that technology holds as it continues to get smaller in the future, and being able to stream data at higher bandwidths with pucks in the room instead of everything like the Quest 2s and all in one device, and then the PlayStation VR, everything comes from the PS5 over physical cables, right? So this technology is only going to get smaller and more convenient. And in that way, eventually it does become mass affordable, it's small and convenient. And I do think it takes over eventually because I believe it's the superior way to experience the games, right?
Oh,
I think
Mark
that's
Zuckerberg's there with you. He's tanking his company in the name of VR and the metaverse. He's tanking the stock price, so he definitely believes in it. He does, even if it means mass layoffs in the process.
I'm kind of glad. I'm kind of glad that a company on that scale retains enough command of one eccentric person that they can commit to something like that when everyone else says no.
Because it might end up paying off big time for them.
It will eventually, but who knows if it'll be Apple or if it'll be Meta or it'll be someone else. Someone will get there, and whoever gets there first is going to become the watermark that everyone else will never be able to surpass.
Not with a price that Apple headset, to be honest.
Well, yeah, but it's not intended for
no.
regular users, right? And it doesn't even come with controllers, right? It's not. And I don't even think they're making controllers for it. I think it's not something for even an enthusiast gamer to want to buy, right? It's something else. It's spatial computing. It's a new paradigm in PC. So yeah, it's not necessarily targeting the same audience, but eventually this will become something that's contained enough. Like the phones were not originally gaming devices, right?
That's true.
Apparently, there's a tremendous gaming market on mobile that none of us on Twitter are familiar with because we all laugh at it, and yet it's dominating. Yeah,
true.
So I do think VR will get there because my favorite way to experience a game is in VR, and I think a lot of the challenges that it faces now with people suffering nausea and teaching people how to use it is not nearly as straightforward as handing them a controller or something they grew up doing. But the younger generation likes it, and they're growing up doing it, and they're not going to have the nausea. So whether our generation of gamer ever adopts it en masse, probably not. But I think the kids that are coming are going to like it a lot.
Yeah, no, that's an interesting view. I mean, the amount of money it's been ploughed into it, there will be something there eventually. Because back when I was a kid, VR used to be... I can't remember when or how old I was. You went to, I don't remember where it was, but there's like is it a festival or something? I was a kid, and you'd sit in this seat and they give you some glasses, and it was like a roller coaster thing. But I believe the seats were moving as well, and that was VR. You had to throw away glasses. They weren't VR as you know it now. It was like different tinted glass you put on your eyes.
Really, it was an immersive 3D experience
on screen. You watch the screen, but it was very basic then compared to what it is now.
I think honestly, and not just because I'm a VR super fan, I think it's more exciting, the innovation. Like, let's talk about the next Xbox and the next PlayStation. What are they going to do different that's exciting?
The problem is,
what did this generation do different? We had fancy triggers on one platform, and the other one had quicker zoom.
Yeah.
Right. So while those are nice quality of life things, and it makes a big difference overall, there's no frontier. You're waiting to see what can be done next. What tools will the devs have that are really going to make that huge difference? They tried to sell that SSD, and that was all bullshit, right? Like, yes, it loads faster. Yes, you could code the games differently to accommodate this new speed, this new pipeline. They've been designing games to do what this was doing for a long time, just in a different way to make it happen. So it becomes an optimization thing, which is nice, but at the end of the day, wasn't groundbreaking and didn't open new avenues. But if you look at like the Quest 3 that's coming, it's doing new and different things that are exciting. It's much thinner because it's got new pancake lenses that changes the optics. higher resolution, more than twice the power, and then it's got color pass-through so that you can see the room around you in color, and it's got a depth sensor so it can measure out your space by itself. You can have mixed reality experiences. So it's not just Xbox One to Xbox Series level of, okay, we're going to have better fidelity and performance. It opens up new ways to make games that's interesting, especially for the amount of indie support you see on these platforms and new creative things coming out all the time. I think it's a more exciting place to play.
It probably is. It's. I'll probably get some crap for this, but the Xbox Series X and PS5, although it's not PCs and they're not, but they literally are like if you look at them, there's not really much in it. I know you can say T-flops that and teraflops that, or whatever you call it, right? If you go back when consoles were consoles, like you got your PlayStation 1s, you got your Sega Saturns, your Dreamcast, they were consoles, but now you could tell the difference. You can't really tell the difference between a PS5 and a Series X, not really. They're just buffed up PCs. That's what they are, but you can't optimise them, obviously. I'm not saying they're a PC, but that's what they don't feel like true consoles, what consoles used to feel like. They're like, you can't say, oh, that's an Xbox game, oh, that's a PlayStation game. They're one of the same.
Yeah, they are. They're very similar.
They are.
AMD makes both of them, right?
Yeah.
So, you'll never beat the console from a value because they can subsidize it, sell it at a loss. And, you have this walled garden where you can have some really cool exclusive content. So it's console's always going to be an interesting and fun place to play. But then there's certain hurdles that it's not going to get past, and then certain choices they've made, the day one patches and everything needing to be online. A lot of the convenience and portability has gone away. I think they'll always hold a place for that from that value perspective, at least until the cloud streaming becomes completely viable enough that you don't need a box on your table.
Well, exactly.
So I think that'll always be a thing. In PC, for all its advantages, has some disadvantages too, with sometimes needing to fiddle around to make things work, and a lot of that extra horsepower you have is wasted.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still new to the PC. I'm just even though I've had this PC a bit, I've only really just started to game on it, so I can't really make them comparisons. But I do know, as Luke Steele's mentioned before, even though he's got a 4090 beast PC, a lot of the games he sometimes play don't run very well. You'd think with a high-powered beast of a PC, every game should run awesome, but sometimes they don't.
Yeah, you're still relying on the developers to optimize for the hardware, and you can't make them do that.
Oh no, you are right. You are right there. Welcome to the Indie Gaming Chat. Thanks for popping in, mate. Good to see you. Hope you're doing well. Now, VJ, have you ever experienced the VR ever before?
My nephew owns a VR.
Oh, does he? Oh,
yeah.
Have you had a go?
I've never been inclined to do so. It's not something that primarily appeals to me. And for those that find it, interesting, that they enjoy the experience of it, that's perfectly fine. And I don't have any issues with it. But since Friendly Pest seems to sort of revel in the sanctity of self-perpetuating, self-centered activity and opinion, I'm going to continue to allow him to waffle. It was a joke.
I zoned out, and then I think I got insulted.
Yeah, I do that to all our guests.
Hit me again. I want to appreciate it.
Yeah, my jokes normally don't really translate very well across a YouTube channel. Anyway, I think for me, no one individual is entirely the same. So everybody has their preferences. So in terms of what technology is available to us, what developers can do given time, quality, and resources, it's different for everybody. But when our guest was speaking, it was interesting because he was speaking and I zoned out, and I would say that it just reminded me something of, I think it was Hamlet in that play, but I just remember it from school. We had an American teacher at the time, but there are always more things. I think it goes something like this: there are always more things in heaven and hell that are dreamt of in sort of one's own philosophy. So, and I just go back to something we were saying before you joined us, was the fact that it's choice, and the choice that we have available to us in this day and age, in terms of the content that's available, and in the different ways or avenues, whether it be online or the cloud or a physical box, the way we're able to access from access points and able to experience that content is far beyond what I thought it ever would be, right? And I'm talking about somebody who started gaming, back in the late 80s and mid to late 80s. So I'm always appreciative in terms of what's available, how much gaming has moved on, not in terms of the players that are involved, in terms of the budgets that are involved, in terms of the R&D budgets that are spent, right, in a single year compared to perhaps a whole decade. So take the 90s for example. So I'm someone who's appreciative in terms of what's available and the accessibility point of it, and also now subscription services like Game Pass, which for me, I don't know how much you pay for games for PES, but for me, it's like if I complete 3 games in Game Pass per annum, which I do, and more, then it's been worth it for me. Until it's not, right? Until there's something else that's better, or until I prefer to go and play. Like for the last couple of months, actually last 3 months, I've kind of pretty much 90% of my time's been on the Nintendo Switch.
Now that is an interesting question there, because
a wonderful 30 frames per second, which I've had no issues with whatsoever, because I don't think it fundamentally, for me personally, it's frame rate, whether it's 24, 30, 60, 120. It's about the design, and is the game able to capture my imagination? And I agree with our guest, the fact that I do see a substantial difference between 30 and 60 frames when it comes to I think it's first-person shooter games. There, I can see the visual feedback, directly. It's kind of like chalk and cheese, like night and day. So, but yeah, again, I wouldn't want to tarnish or paint every single game with the fact that it needs to be 30, it needs to be 60, it needs to be 120, and so on and so forth. I think, as I say, that everybody absorbs information in a different way and a different speed. And again, if it brings a smile to your face and it captures your imagination, it shouldn't make any difference. And whether you like it and someone doesn't like it, because you cannot ever change or force anyone else's opinion. It's always just got to come down to, in terms of, again, how it captures your own imagination. And if that pleases you and that can provide you joy, I think that's got to be the ultimate. The ultimate marker for you as an individual, regardless of anyone else's opinion.
Well, and I think I agree with everything you just said there.
And
I
come
think,
on, no one agrees
no.
with me. That's the whole point.
No. I do, because but the key to your point was that it's a lot of personal preference, right? And I think I highlighted that pretty well in my own tangent. That it's for me, I am exceptionally sensitive, and I found Redfall at 30 FPS unplayable and unacceptable, right? But I never prefer it.
Can I just say something on that? And look, I'm somebody who's new to sort of multiplayer games. I never used to play them. And what I found about it was that I thought, if I play multiplayer games, am I going to enjoy it? Because the majority of the time people are sort of using expletives or making fun, not really focusing on the game. And I played Left 4 Dead, I think with the RemovableSanity, our other panel member, with Stubbs, unless he was falling asleep about 20 minutes in.
Yeah, that sounds about right for me. It does.
Yeah, he often falls asleep, so fair warning to you, friendly pest.
Not on the podcast yet. Don't believe I have.
What I found is always a first time for everything. There's what I found is that the camaraderie, the working together, even in I think one of the first ones I played was one of the Gears of War and the Gears of War Hive Busters together, and I found it really interesting. And when I played Redfall, I knew it was going to be 30 frames per second. I didn't have a problem with it. And of course, I'd love to have been 60 frames per second. But what Redfall did for me after Back 4 Blood was the fact that everything that I'd come to appreciate in video games over a period of a decade, that game did did everything it possibly could in terms of its design to diminish everything I'd come to appreciate. That's probably the most kindest compliment I could give that. I can afford that game. So it'd be interesting just to hear your point, whether if the game was 60 frames per second, would it have been something you would have stuck with?
Yeah, I'm gonna upset you by agreeing with you again.
Damn it!
I think
Can we get a
no.
less harmonious
I-
guest on next time, please?
No, I think you're right about Redfall falling short in other ways, and then in addition, it ran terrible, right? Because I noticed that my experience on the PC, it was at least fun to fight things. And my friend and I, we were playing it co-op on PC, and at least we were having a good time with the mechanics themselves, right? Because everything else, as you said, was fairly weak. And then whenever you take away the feeling of joy you get from actually playing the game, it leaves nothing. So, yeah, I agree with you.
Yep. And I'm getting very uncomfortable on this podcast with someone agreeing with me, because it's not that I want to perplex our guests and so on and so forth. What I try to do is to convey everything, even if it's from a minority perspective, if that makes sense, just to then, if everybody comes at it from a different angle, it can sometimes help everybody to arrive at a truth, if that makes sense. Not that truth is fact and that should be stable, right? Because we should do everything we possibly can to dismantle the truth. Because obviously all facts, truths, and facts and figures, lie in the shadow of ignorance. But so that's why I do it. So because I don't know if I've been on a podcast with you before. I'm hesitant to say I have been, because I think I have been. It's just that your name comes up quite frequently with Masuko, who's someone who I converse with quite often, who's obviously a big fan of yours.
Well, I don't know why the poor fellow would be a fan of mine. But to your point, I think many things can be true at once, right?
Yeah.
In a game, take all the old Halo games ran at 30 FPS, and I loved those games, and I played them over and over and over again, right? But now I would absolutely prefer to play them at a higher frame rate, even though I still love those games. So I think it is an aspect of a game, and I think it can be an important aspect, especially in a first-person shooter. As you mentioned, in a third-person adventure, especially something like The Witcher 3, I don't think it matters as much. I still prefer the higher frame rate for sure. It's just another piece of the puzzle that you eventually assemble in your head and decide whether or not you enjoyed an experience and how much you enjoyed the experience, which I think is a key part of VR. Is just another piece of the same kind of puzzle you put together on whether or not you like a game or not.
And just on VR, and I know this is going to sound very strange. I have a problem. This is just me. This is just the personal. I have a problem and an uncomfortable time having even having a large headset on my head for any period of time. I just prefer observing this TV screen and having a surround sound system if I have one available to me, or access to one at the time, right, to play play my video games. So then having a headset and having something in front of my forehead and covering my nose and the upper part of my head, I just find it slightly disturbing, and I can't tell you why. It may have been because I had a run-in with the Sega Activator all those years ago, or the Virtual Boy. But until VR, sort of has a killer app, and there was a game by Valve, and please forgive me, was it Half-Life Alyx?
Many people figured that was kind of a killer app.
That really piqued my interest, to be quite honest with you. And as I say, my nephew has it, but I just haven't had the same sort of energy to sort of get up, go there, try it, that I had for every time that I wanted to, or I thought I might do if I pop over there. Another game has popped up on PlayStation or on the Nintendo Switch or on Xbox.
Go and do it. Homework.
Hey,
do it.
Yeah. So that's why I sort of threw in that joke. That I'd like let Friendly Pest continue to talk about VR, because it's not something that I can, without trying it, without experiencing it full on, it's not something that I'm qualified to give an opinion on.
Well, comfort-wise, I think that it's come a long way, right? Because my first headset was one of the Windows mixed reality headsets, and I enjoyed that a lot for about 2 months, and then I kind of bounced off it. But it also had a very short cable that I had to connect to my PC, and I was always getting tangled up in it. I didn't really kind of fall in love with VR until the Quest 2 came out, and then I figured out that I could drive it from my PC wirelessly over my home Wi-Fi, right? And then I had a play space adequate that I could really move around and enjoy the games more. That's really when I started to like it. But even out of the box, the Quest 2 is not a particularly comfortable headset. There's a lot of third-party manufacturers coming up with different products, new straps that you can put them on. They're much more comfortable. I use a Bobo VR M2, something like that. Even has an external battery, so I can have longer play times because the onboard battery is only good for about an hour and a half.
Oh,
I
really?
find that
Okay.
when I have it on, I often forget that I'm wearing the headset. Right? It becomes my reality, and I like where it takes my perspective for the games. I like that because you're interacting with things in this stereoscopic 3D environment, that you're inclined to look at stuff closely and appreciate the detail. And if you're playing multiplayer, there's a sense of presence that is not there on flat screen gaming. And I think in those ways, it helped me to, as someone that was kind of becoming burned out on gaming, it helped me to see games in a new way and have an entirely new skill set to develop, because you need all the muscle memory to reload the magazines and shoulder the weapons or your sword fighting, etc. It was better for me from a physical health perspective because I was up moving. I had all these new skills to learn, and it changed the way I got to look at these games in a way that made me think that the developer might focus on different aspects of a game than maybe a traditional developer would, and thus new doors of possibilities, right? What did they focus on? Why did they focus on it? Because they know your perspective's going to be different. So what are they going to do differently? And then also this sense of presence and immersion takes the suspense of certain games to a whole new level. I wouldn't say it's the most efficient way to play something. And there are certainly a whole list of disadvantages, but it's been the most fun I've had in a long time.
Yeah.
It's great to see because obviously with your YouTube, you used to do podcasts, didn't you? You used to do some podcasts, and then you used to make some nice music videos like the CFEs one, didn't you?
Yeah,
Well.
yeah, we had the Carry On Gaming podcast, and we were making musical tributes to different games, and we thought that was fun and cool and might take off.
That was good. And then obviously with your content creation, because you're so passionate about VR, it's really helped you, propelled you, because with YouTube, you need to really show your total passion, and you found it with VR, and it's showing by your channel's just growing and growing with VR. It's really good to see, and you can see you're actually passionate about VR in the videos, because it's not just like, because it literally is just a VR channel.
Forgive me if I'm wrong. Look, I haven't watched any of the content, but from listening to how Friendly Press speaks and how he presents himself, how he represents the content that he plays, I would say passion. I would say it probably, without looking at his content, I would say it's probably a informative and educational channel as well as just saying, "Hey, look, here's a great game." Would that be okay for me to say? Would I be right?
I think that's fair. I have never felt that my content needed to be just about the game I was playing. And a fine example of that was last Friday's Into the Radius video. I put an Into the Radius video up every Friday, and it had more to do with the fact that I got a new job than it did with the game. So I will put life moments in the videos, and then when I come back to them years later, I remember what I was feeling at that time. And that's actually something I have always done. I had several other YouTube channels that are long since dead and discontinued, and there were videos that I'd lost a loved one or a pet had passed, and And that was part of my content. And when I look back on those, it's almost like a diary. So when I'm playing a game, I don't do a lot of the things that irritate me about other YouTubers, probably to the detriment of my channel. I do
What
not.
do you mean you do
You're
not?
not talking about stubs again, are you?
You don't
Yes,
do.
constantly.
You
Yes.
don't do drama. Is that what you mean? You do not do drama.
Yeah, I do. I don't do.
No,
I don't do
wow.
clickbait. I don't do clickbait. I don't try to overhype a thing. I don't beg for likes and subscribes or sharing. And then when I'm reviewing a game, chances are I bought the game, so I'm not trying to appease anyone with my presentation. So a lot of the times, the content is whatever I wanted to play at that time and whatever I was feeling at that time. And I don't try to ramp up my own enthusiasm and be more entertaining, because I find when people do that, I find it very annoying. There's a huge audience for it. So once again, I'm in a small box and hurting myself by making content the way I want to make content. But really, I knew my wife and I were going to have to be separated for an extended amount of time, and I needed something to do, and that was VR, and that was my YouTube channel.
Now,
So
Indy's got a good comment for you.
Sure.
So many gaming channels out there focusing on a specific niche area. Sorry, focusing on a specific area of gaming enables you to bring something fresh. Because it's true, a lot of the channels do the same stuff over
They
and
do.
over and over and over, and yours
well,
is fresh.
and what? No, I don't know.
Is there many other gaming channels that specify on VR?
Sure,
I've
sure.
never
There are other.
looked. I haven't.
There are other VR channels. Most of them much bigger than mine.
Yeah,
But a lot
I
of
think-
them will do what a lot of other channels do. And they're not necessarily playing what they want to play because that's what they want to play. They're playing something because they think it's going to grow their channel.
Oh,
And they're behaving a certain way because they think it's going to grow their channel. Right? So their first priority is attention and growth. And that is not my first priority. My first priority is to play what I want to play and talk about what I want to talk about. And I had to decide at the beginning of this if I was okay with the fact that this was going to greatly hurt any chance of growth. And I'm completely okay with that. If people don't want to watch because my content's too long and I talk about whatever I want to talk about and I'm not overly enthusiastic, that's okay, because I'm going to create what I want to create. And that's why I remain passionate about it, because I'm doing what I want, not trying to pretend to be someone else. And that's so hard to keep up that kind of energy. And I'm not trying to create drama or exaggerate, and those channels are way more successful than mine. So who's dumb, right? But I enjoy it. And I think that's why I can continue to do it regardless of growth, etc.
See, I know this is not gaming related, but see, you just hit on something, right? Because for me, it just shows me the very nature of our society, how it stands. Because I can't remember who said it, but it's not one of mine. It's someone else, a book I read a long time ago, and it's so true. It's not a measure of health to be adjusted to a profoundly sort of sick society, and that's why those channels are popular. Because I try to find channels that are informative, right, or perhaps offer an informed perspective. But all I find on social media and on YouTube, and where no problem admitting this, I follow less than 10 channels because the vast majority insist on providing you an opinionated, just opinionated nonsense and reaction, and it just kind of really makes me anemic to the whole bloody thing, and it shouldn't really bother me, and it doesn't. It's bothering me less and less because I try to figure out why it was bothering me. But how mature are people that offer an opinion, let alone the maturity of the opinion itself, which is most concerning. But again, it shouldn't concern me, and none whatsoever. And slowly but surely, I think it was more to do with the fact that, bloody hell, I hope none of this is sort of, going to be mandated to behave like this in the Magna Carta or something, because we're all doomed. So, along with 30 and 60 frames per second, if you don't mind me adding. But anyway, sorry, carry on, because people might not be able to keep up with what I'm saying.
No, I think I understand exactly what you're saying.
I just need to reread this. I've read it wrong, apparently.
That's okay.
So I want to reread it because for Indie Gamer, I read it wrong. So many gaming channels out there focusing on the specific area of gaming enables you to bring something fresh. I believe I've read it right now. There you go.
But that would have less to do with the fact I'm covering VR and more to do with the way I'm covering it. And I agree with him. I think that my channel is fairly unique in that way. And then back to VJ's point, I had a recent change of perspective on that with it. For a long time in my life, I would see something and I would think, that's stupid. And then people make a bunch of money taking advantage of other people that are attracted. Not to say that these stupid people like stupid things and it sells, right? That's really what I'm saying. I'm just trying to say it in a nicer way that maybe won't catch me a bunch of hate. And I almost regret my inability. I almost regret my inability to predict the next stupid thing that's going to sell well, because why not? Why not capitalize on it? So then that puts you in a position that you can do things that are more worthwhile and meaningful with your life, instead of, sticking your tongue out at every stupid thing you see and then missing the boat on everything, right? And I haven't quite squared that in my own mind. But there's a part of me that does not that resents when I see a stupid thing garner someone a huge amount of fun, and I see it every day, and I'm just not good at it. I'm not good at it.
No, and look, and I think this applies to everybody, including me and you, because I don't want to sound holier than thou, but if you're a human being, I think that anything that you are motivated towards is a selfish goal. And if you start looking at things like that, and it's probably too much to go into a podcast like this, but if you start just analyzing it from that perspective, you start to see things a little bit more clearly, and you're able to somehow kind of filter through all of the nonsense that's out there.
No, I think that's true. No, I think that's true. I don't know
it's
exactly
just that when
how to
Stubbs
respond
goes quiet, I don't know if he's trying to ask me for a further explanation or if he's falling asleep.
I'm not falling asleep. I'm still here.
Holy cow. It's a first.
I'm still here. But because I do my best to insult all of our guests as best I possibly can, but I'm struggling today with Friendly Pest. I think he doesn't.
It's because
I think he's pre-looked at the what? How can I bug
No,
VJ?
I didn't have time to read that.
I'm just going to keep agreeing with him. I'm just going to keep agreeing.
No, it's. I do not hold positions.
I know you don't.
Just to hold positions.
I know you will.
What Friendly Pest is saying, right? He is the opposite of someone who doesn't sit there framing his own personal thoughts, his own personal gallery, and hoping that everything fits inside perfectly and that everybody agrees with him and it's according to him, right? Because what he's saying it's a redundant approach to in an ever-changing world. Was that about right?
Yes, but I don't work backwards from a conclusion through the data to try to justify the conclusion. Right? Generally, I have already overthought it, and that's why I've reached the conclusion I have. And if more data is presented, I am willing to change my mind.
I was going to say, you're not married to it. Yeah.
Yeah, I have no ego in this. And I
just
think
like
that
RemovableSanity that's what he's like.
No, but he thinks Twitter's great, doesn't he?
Well, apparently it's according to chat, it's changing to X. Twitter will be known as X, apparently. Elon's changing it to X, the actual name.
It is not. When I say something like Twitter is terrible, I do not mean specifically it's terrible. I think algorithm-generated content or targeted content is innately damaging, right? As I think it's a rage generation machine by design. And until you can improve that, that's about all you're going to get out of it. And I would say over the last week and a couple days, I've been so busy that I've not had any time to get on Twitter at all. My mental health has improved quite a bit because I just can't block everyone, right? And no matter how many people I block, you guys will still see somebody say something dumb and retweet that, right? Not you specifically, everybody else, right? It's like, I don't want to see that crap. That's why I block these kind of people. Quit giving them a platform by highlighting the dumb thing they said.
There is a lot of good people on there. You just got to get
course there are.
blocked
Of course there are.
idiots. You have.
There's some great people in the gaming community, and a lot of them are watching this podcast right now.
Like, indie gamers already saying the name's changed. Apparently, it's
I just
the
hope,
logo.
I just hope, Pest, that you're not sort of painting me with that brush.
Not at all. Not at all.
Thank you.
I don't see you active on Twitter at all, actually.
No, he just follows a few people. He doesn't. And he might like share if he likes a video from like Indie or RemovableSanity or somebody, he may share it. But that's as much as you'll see, really. Is that correct, VJ?
Yep.
Yeah, I just find first of all, maybe I'm a little bit old school, but I find the vocabulary on Twitter, some of it I don't understand, and some of it is just so repetitive. It's just mind-boggling that that's the level of intelligence of the people that are operating on a mass basis in the whole of the world, basically. And for me, that's a failing of society, and it's a failing of our government, and it's the fail. Well, you can turn it in a full circle. That's the failing of the people that are voting these people in power. I think we were only talking the other day, right? The amount of money that is donated to NASA, Lord knows what they do with it, and that level of cash over the last decade would have solved educational system, would have solved the health system, and so on and so forth. I could go on and on and on, but it just doesn't. And then I was reading something. No, I think it was Stephen Fry or something. I was shocked to. Probably this isn't the channel for it. It's going to get a bit too political, but yeah, I was just shocked by some of the stuff. Stephen Fry is somebody I follow, and he's brilliant in terms of the speeches that he makes, and I've always tried to learn from him and follow his example in terms of the lengths that he goes to actually produce some of his speeches, and the language that he uses and the vocabulary that he uses. It's just so fluent, so poetic. It's brilliant. I mean, I'll never be in his class, but I'm sure that some of the UK people in the chat would have heard of him. I'm not sure if you've ever heard of him, Pest, but
yes, Stephen Fry.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you ever heard of him? Pest? No problem.
The name doesn't ring a bell, but so I'm not sure.
Have you heard of Christopher Hitchin?
No.
No issues. No problem.
What is he writing? Philosophy or something else?
Christopher Hitchens no longer with us. What I would say about Stephen Fry, he was an actor, he was a comedian, and he's also done a lot of serious. He was actually in The Hobbit, part 2 and 3, I think, as well. So, but basically, he's what I would call a polymath, somebody who has incredible memory, and a polymath is basically somebody that knows incredible amounts or level of information or detailed knowledge on numerous subjects. So he's quite well, if you want to categorize him as an intelligent person, you can do, but necessarily having knowledge doesn't necessarily make you intelligent, if that makes sense. More so the fact that you have fantastic memory. But it's just in terms of the public speeches that he's given. And
indie gamer like Stephen Fry.
They're quite phenomenal. You can find them on YouTube. So it was just I'll put that out there. But,
yes.
Yeah. Does that
Masuka also knows who he is as well.
Yeah.
But yeah,
sure. Maybe I'll take a look at that later.
Let's do a few shout outs. Welcome back from the dead. Sorry if you went in from the start. I think I may have missed you, but welcome anyway. Welcome to War Stew as well.
Have you ever watched Blackadder?
And yeah, have you ever watched Blackadder? That's a good question.
Yes.
Black Adam? No.
Blackadder.
Adder.
I'm not into those comic book movies. You know what I mean?
No. With Rowan Atkinson and Stephen Fry.
I know what you're talking about.
Oh,
I've not seen it. No.
Oh, okay.
Blackadder, I think, is available. All the series is available. He stars in there as well. Yeah.
I'm gonna look it up just so I can say I know you're talking about.
Also, welcome to Luke Steele as well.
Okay, yeah, I've seen Stephen Fry before. Yeah.
he's very different from off-screen giving speeches in public seminars and so on and so forth compared to his on-screen persona. So yeah, please don't paint him with a singular comedic brush, if that makes sense.
No, it's I'm not much of a watcher when it comes to anything, podcasts, other YouTube channels.
I know you now.
Movies.
I know you. Unless it's running at 60 frames per second, you're not interested.
It's not that. I have very little free time to watch other things unless I'm struck very interested by it. And then I will consume everything I can find about the subject or person, and then I move on. But I don't generally sit back and watch things just to watch things.
No.
That's fair enough. Nice.
Well, in that way, I have some extremely wide blind spots when it comes to certain things that are culturally popular. But I'm okay with it,
I'm not sure if he's culturally popular now, but he was during the 90s.
I would say Stephen Fry's still well known even to this day. He still does. To the British, but in terms of the height of his popularity, it's got to have been during Blackadder and when he was on TV. And there was a show but this is primarily in England. You see, it's not over here in the States. Talking of the States, not to infringe upon your sort of. Americans love our British classic TV, so I would say a lot of them know who he is. Probably they eat it up. They normally like it, from what I understand.
Wouldn't want to put a mark down on that of any sort.
Not saying every American audience likes it, but
the only people that the Americans know is Jerry Springer, from my experience. But anyway, let's move on.
Let's get back to gaming talk now. I reckon.
Yeah, I wanted to ask. I'll probably get called an impudent swine here, but I'll risk it. Not to infringe upon your national security agreement here, because I wouldn't want to do that, Pest. But I'm just trying to place your accent. What part of the States are you from?
That's another secret, my friend. I am from rural Sweden. So, no, I can't help you there. Do I not sound Swedish?
No.
That's
probably not true then.
He's like you, VJ. He's a member of the CIA,
You don't even sound human, mate.
Yeah, like VJ doesn't even own a mobile phone. You know what I mean?
I tell everybody on my YouTube channel that I'm from Sweden, and I had somebody ask me a question about it one time. It was amazing. They were some kind of book report, and they wanted to ask me questions about Sweden.
Wow, they really believed you.
I don't know if you... Yeah, that's okay.
You sound like you're from a southern state, Georgia, Kentucky, Louisiana.
I do have a bit of a southern accent, especially if I'm not paying attention to myself, because when I let my concentration slide, I really go into the valley. But no one else in my family has that accent. So I can't exactly say why, but I do.
Yeah. It sounds like it. I can't say it's a deep southern accent, but yeah.
No, but it doesn't take much for me to get there. If I pay a visit to Tennessee or Kentucky, pretty soon I come out of the hills myself.
Understood.
I pick it up right away.
You visit there often?
Not anymore, but I used to regularly enjoy dirt bike trips down there.
Understood.
That was a good time. Something I did in my younger days, and then started to hurt more and more. And I discovered mountain biking offers a lot of the same thrills, but at much cheaper, and you can have more fun locally. So, kind of got more into cycling, being outside, especially once I got close to 30, which I'm well beyond now. But that's kind of whenever I transitioned to doing more things under human power. Canoes, paddle boats, swimming, running, biking. I took more interest in that, and that's become a much bigger part of my life. I think it's improved my health, both physically and mentally.
It's good to hear, that is. Very good to hear, that is. I reckon we should transition back into gaming, I reckon. I was having... Daz was streaming Final Fantasy, and he was telling me how many hours he's game plussed it already. And the conversation came up, and VJ's Zelda run so far, and it was more to do with value for money, how much games are versus how many hours he's put into the new Final Fantasy game. He's put in 79 hours. And VJ has spent how much was the new Zelda, VJ, for you?
Pretty much been playing it exclusively since its launch, and I'm probably it says on the system it just says over 300 hours at the moment.
So what was that? $70, $50?
It was $70 plus tax, 77 something.
So that's incredible value for money. That is, if you can get that amount of time out of it. That's what we were on about, value for money, when people say it's too expensive. But if it's a game that really hooks you in, like your 300 hours is amazing value for money.
I mean, when I bought it, I wasn't. Look, I'll be honest with you. I never. I mean, when up until that point, right, I hadn't even mentioned Zelda, and I was in two minds. And
You were.
I know it's going to sound strange, but exactly for the reasoning, some of the reasoning that or insight that PES gave us in terms of, look, it's on pretty old hardware. It's going to be 720 to 1080. It's also got some VSync issues. It's going to run at 24 to 30 frames per second. And but what happened was that I switched on my Nintendo Switch machine just for a few minutes, and Zelda Breath of the Wild was still in there. And I hadn't played the game for 6 years because I'd finished it in 2017 when it came out.
That was the last time you played your Switch? 6 years ago?
Not the last time I played my Switch, but Zelda was the launch title for the system, right?
Yeah.
So I obviously played Mario. I played Mario Odyssey, Yoshi's World, etc. So what it was is that I played it and I thought, wow, now I know why I loved Breath of the Wild, the gameplay, the camera system, just everything that I enjoyed about the game came sort of rolling back, thundering back, I should say. So I went and said, you know what, there isn't really anything else in and around that time in May that I want to play. Everything we're going to see in the up and coming shows, because we talked about that, perhaps some certain games may drop in Game Pass, as per the event, nothing really did. And everything seems to be, being delayed. For whatever reason, and that's fine. So, and I think I mentioned it on the show that I had a gift card. I think I mentioned Removable. I had a gift card that we tried to use in a restaurant and couldn't use it. So the only other place we could use it was GameStop. So I went and used it to buy Zelda, and I have to tell you, it was one of the worst experiences ever. So I won't be going back to GameStop anytime soon or ever again if I can help it, unless it's to trade in my hardware, which they seem to offer you some fantastic deals on. But anyway. So then I picked up Zelda, and I thought, you know what, let's give it a go. And it's just completely just captured me on every single level in terms of creativity, in terms of design. It just has a magnificent spirit about it, and I haven't been able to put it down. I know games like Planet of Lana have been out, Dordogne, which I've been playing on and off here and there. But Zelda has been the game for me, regardless of all of its technical shortcomings. It's a phenomenal game. And have I really gone into too much of a long answer to your question? Because I'm not entirely sure now, because I think I should stop. But yeah, it's a phenomenal game. It's Game of the Year. I wouldn't be surprised, because it's quite magical. And I'll tell you what, one thing it did do. There was something that inspired me about that game to go and rewatch pretty much all of the Studio Ghibli movies. And rewatching the Studio Ghibli movies again is categorically, I can say that those sets of movies by Hayao Miyazaki have strongly influenced the world building and the designing of creatures and elements, etc., and so on and so forth. Even some of the storytelling. And I don't want to use spirit again, because it might be sort of angling towards Spirited Away, but yeah, a lot of the essence that makes up the Ghibli movies are ever present in even though I would say that the creative directors on the game have put their own spin on it, but from a seed perspective, you can see how the Ghibli movies have seeded many aspects of Zelda Breath of the Wild, and more so, I would say, Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. Massive influence, and I thought it was just me, so I did a quick search, and I'm not the only one that can attest to that. There's people out there that are far more how can I put it? observant and have deep dived into the making of the Ghibli movies and of Breath of the Wild. That put videos out there. I haven't really watched any of them in detail, but I was just glad to see that I wasn't the only one that sort of came across that contrast. So, but anyway, I think I'll stop there in case Pest falls asleep as well as you.
So you feel that obviously the $70 for the new Zelda was well worth it and value for money.
Look, I've bought games. Look, you know that I come from an era, right, when Neo Geo, Mega Drive, Super Nintendo games were $100 plus back in the 90s. Yeah. All the imports. So, and then as I say, it doesn't matter whether a game is $5 or $200, right? At the end of the day, is that there are games that are released at $70 that aren't worth $20 to me, and there's games that come out at $15 to $20. There's games in Game Pass like Hollow Knight, which, if I didn't mention Hollow Knight in every single show that I do with you, the indie gamer would be on my case. So Hollow Knight, I picked up in Game Pass. I even got it for free on PS Plus. I played it. I put in 150 odd hours, and I didn't pay anything for it, and I feel guilty every day. But
buy a copy. In the Xbox, just go and buy a copy.
No, it's not that. It's I'll probably pick it up on PlayStation. The Silk Song. I know it's coming to Game Pass as well. But the point is that it just makes me hope that I don't know how these deals are structured in terms if it's in Game Pass, are these developers paid based on the number of hours consumed by the relevant gamer or the prevalent gamer that plays that game, or if they're just given a fixed rental fee per month. I have no idea, but I put in as many hours as I possibly could, and I hope Team Cherry have been rewarded accordingly. And the same thing I would say for Piranha Games, because just prior to Zelda, I'd put in 300 hours for MechWarrior 5, which you know.
Yes, I do know. I reckon the deal between Game Pass and Team Cherry for Hollow Knight is substantial. They ain't just a normal, they ain't Silk Song. Sorry, Silk Song. They're not just a normal, struggling indie developer studio. They know that game is seriously hyped. I mean, it's like the indie gamers pointing out time after time after time. If you go look at the videos of any time a trailer comes out, be it Nintendo, be it Xbox, and the views are absolutely through the roof, into the millions, and that just shows you how big the hype for this game is. I reckon it's a substantial deal. It is, but either way, when the game's ready, it's ready. But I think it'll be a big game to Xbox to get day and date.
Could we ask Pest? Pest, are you a fan of Team Cherry or Hollow Knight or those sorts of games, or is that not really your cup of tea?
I bounced off Hollow Knight. I would say that I didn't give it a fair chance, but it didn't grab me immediately. And sometimes that type of game will, and sometimes it won't. I liked the Ori games, both of those. I played those thoroughly. I liked Inside. I thought it was pretty good. I didn't think it was the masterwork that everyone said it was, but I thought it was a pretty cool experience overall. I liked Limbo.
Limbo's good.
So yeah, I've not played Hollow Knight, so I don't have much to add to that.
That's fair enough. With regards to games, Pest, do you believe that some games you see value for money? Like, say, you found a game that was $70, $50. You got your value for money. Would you say it's priced accordingly if you got the value for money? Because a lot of games now, people moan that it's $70, but like I was talking to Daz, and he said a lot of people, like, when you complete certain games, you get 50. Sometimes you can get a lot of hours. So e.g., like VJ, he's got 300 hours. He says, well, some people go out and get pissed and spend more than like $70 in a night. You got a game you can keep playing and playing. It's more about a lot of games of value for money. Can I just say something there just before Pest answers? I want to just say that even if I spent $10 or $70,
the amount of hours that I've played a game doesn't necessarily define the value that I've got out of the game, because there's other things that I won't go into now, but there's other things that I derive or gain from playing games, whether it's for 5 or 10 hours, regardless of the price. So I just wanted to put that in there, that the number of hours I've extracted from paying X amount isn't the be all and end all for me.
Okay, that's fair. I just thought I'd bring it up. That's all.
Yeah.
Interesting question, I thought. That's all.
Yeah. Go ahead, Pest. Sorry.
In general, I think $70 is too much for a game. I think to raise a standard price, then we should have some expectations, right? And I think that's very hard to do with something that's basically art. And I also agree with the notion that the amount of hours I have in something doesn't, to me, really define the value, because I have a considerable amount of time in Destiny, and I think that's a regularly terrible game in general. I hate more things about that game than I like. I played it only because it was co-op, and I complained the entire time. But I have a lot of time in it, right? But I still think it was a terrible value. Something like Witcher 3, I put so much time in that. Something like Into the Radius, I put a tremendous amount of time in that. But it would really be more if the experience spoke to me in a way I didn't expect. Or if, you could just measure the raw amount of time for entertainment that I got out. You could measure the value of an experience that way. Firewatch to me was a pretty special game, and it wasn't a very long game, but it was worth whatever I paid for it. So it comes down to that. I think in general, I don't like the standard $70, right? Because I don't think there's any kind of promise that comes with that raise in price. There's nothing you can definitely expect that wasn't there before. The games are still going to launch in a terribly unfinished state, et cetera, patches and things that don't work for months after release, et cetera, and so on. And that's just become a fact of games now that's separate from the price, and the price doesn't really fix it. So in general, I don't like the new standard price. Largely, I have committed to not buying games at that price. But with the Xbox rewards, I can twist in my mind that I can put those reward points towards a price to bring it down into a realm that I do feel comfortable with. But it depends on the game. Something like Starfield, if it wasn't going to be in Game Pass, I would probably buy it anyway. So yeah, there's a long answer that didn't really say anything.
No, I see it. I understand what you're saying, and I'm very, very similar to you in my approach. Is that if Zelda's one game, I think the other game this year, Spider-Man, which I'll probably pay the $70 for, based on reviews, etc. Not in terms that I pay any credence to the reviews or give them any credit, is just to get the general gist of what the wisdom of the crowd is saying at a given point in time. But I think that the people that have an issue with this, and this may be just very narrow-minded, so feel free to correct me, is that I think that the issue that people have with $70 is the fact that that the vast majority of games are going to be reduced in price. I think the people that have a problem with $70 games is the people that want to play it on day one and be part of the fellowship, which means basically inside the camp spitting out rather than outside the camp spitting in and waiting for the price to drop, which I think is reasonable to expect, because those games will drop in price. They'll sell to X million number of users at 70. There'll be a massive market at the $40 to $50 range, and eventually that you'll know that they'll be at $20, and if not, eventually they'll be in a subscription service if you're prepared to wait. And I think there's an abundance of content to play out there while you wait for that game to play. And I personally have a list in terms of, look, I wanted this game at launch. I'm not going to buy it at launch. I'll wait till it's on sale. And I do that every year. Thanksgiving in the US, it's quite crazy. I remember picking up Resident Evil, was it Village, the last one? I didn't want to pay $60, $70 at launch. Or I think it's fair to Capcom, it's $60. I ended up getting it at Best Buy, of all places. I don't even know why I was in the store, for $20. They had some crazy promotion going on. So I've become more opportunistic. And at the same time, Sekiro, for example, I've been waiting for that to drop for the last few years, and it hasn't. And perhaps with the APK deal, it may appear in Game Pass. I doubt it, because I just think that From Software are very protective of their content, and they probably need their permission to do so if anything like that was to arise. But I used to be somebody that wanted to have a game on day of launch, if not before launch, which I was able to do for a long periods of time, and be able to play it. But I have no need now, no necessity now to be first to play it and complete it before everybody else. And even with Zelda, I put a lot of hours in, but over a long period of time, because again, I'm not in any rush to complete it. So maybe it's just an age difference, but yeah, I think everyone has a perceived value of a given commodity, and I think it's as Pest has said, Starfield, regardless of the fact it's at 30 frames per second, he'll play.
No, I won't. No, I won't. I'll be putting that on PC.
I had to get that in there, Pest. I did.
Yep. Nope.
So, yeah, it's
Nope.
just a joke. But
Yeah.
but yeah,
I'll be playing that on PC.
yeah. So at 30 frames per second, and or 45. But yeah, it's just
Run
about
better than that.
it's just
It better
about
run better than
the perceived value of a given game at a given time. So yeah, I think if you're smart enough, you can pick up the game you want at the value that you perceive it to be at.
I would say ultimately there are more rational reasons to support the increase in cost than oppose it. Inflation's everywhere. Game price has been the same for a long time. You get all these hours of entertainment, food and alcohol costs so much. The entertainment you get out of it versus that. Man, you can't go to a movie for less than $50, right? There are way more rational reasons to support the cost increase than to oppose it. And I would say that my position is more of an emotional one. And I admit that readily. I think it's too much. I think 70 is too much. But I also am not the type of person to eat out. You know what I mean? It fits my nature. I don't spend money on things unless they are things that stick around. We might go out to eat once a month and not spend a lot there. Most things, if I can make it, I'll make it instead of buying it. So it sort of fits me as a person that I generally oppose it. But I would say at the end of the day, perceived value is more important. Probably more reasons to support the price increase than not. But my personal income hasn't gone up in a long time, so I emotionally don't like to see the cost go up, especially when I do not see an increase in quality. I think your argument has to be, well, it's just more expensive to pay the people to make the game, not that the game's better than it used to be. Right? And if you have an honest opinion on that, then it makes sense. It is what it is. And then you decide if it's worth it to you or not. As far as waiting for sales, I think that definitely works on PC more than other platforms.
Yep.
But it's not something I usually consider. I generally either want to play a thing or I don't. And at that point, it doesn't matter. I'm not going to wait for something that I want to play. Now, a few years from now, something that I was considering playing comes to a service that I pay for. Maybe then I would play it, right? But I'm either in or I'm out when it comes to that.
It's fair enough. It's definitely divided the chat, the conversation has.
In what way?
Well, Luke's all for 70 quid games. Paul AFC isn't. It's quite a few, but it's nice, friendly debate though. Everyone's got.
Yeah, but I don't think it's a case of you are or you are not happy with $70. There's a million things that go on in the world every single day that causes conflict, that causes division. Okay, and the way that I see it is that you can form an opinion on every single thing, right? But opinions again, primarily they're always destructive, right? Not just to outwardly, but inwardly as well. And the way I look at it is saying, right, okay, I've got to just look at it sensibly. I've got a backlog of games. I do want to play this game. I don't need to play it on day one. It will be reduced in price, and it may be at a price that I want to play it in 6 months' time. But in 6 months' time, there might be something else on the horizon. And like Pest says, you've got your reward points, or you've got a gift card, or whatever, right? Or you've saved some money up, or you've got some extra the cash, which I know a lot of people don't, given the fact that 50% of the US population itself is is sort of barely surviving, right? I don't want to say below the poverty line, because I think that's not accurate, but that struggle. And there are a lot of things that happen within the games industry that are causing games prices to rocket, which the general public aren't aware of. And I've talked about it on this show, especially on the West Coast here, where many studios reside. That Google and Xbox during 2018, 2019, and up until 2020, artificially inflated the economy in terms of salaries for gamers, because it's just very competitive to entice good designers, programmers, artists, riggers, etc., and so on and so forth, to leave studios and join a new project, and so on and so forth. And money's not really an object to these guys. But as I say to you, if you look at it from Nintendo's point of view, if they knew they were going to sell 10 million copies of Zelda, $10. Just doing rough maths here, that's another $70 million for them. And if let's just assume that $200 million is the going rate for a AAA game, right? I'm not saying that's what it cost, but that's a third of the development costs covered. And I think that they've got to play the numbers game, and they've got an audience that will pay for the game at $70. And I'm looking at it from a business perspective, right? And then they've got an audience that will say, "Hey, that's too rich for us. We'll buy it when it's either 50 or 60," because obviously Nintendo games managed to somehow hold their price for a numerous number of years. A position I think that the other two platform holders would love to maintain, but it's difficult. It's difficult.
It is. Just to be fair, Luke wants to clear something up, because I said he was for.
I think I could clarify it for you, Stubbs. The way you say it is he thinks everything should cost 70, and even the games that don't cost that, he'll find a way to get that money to the dev because he likes that 70. I think that's what he said.
Just said, to be clear, I'm not for £70 games. I'll pay it, but only when I think there's a quality behind it. And generally these days, the only games I'll pay for are PlayStation 5 exclusives. And that's because everything else I play is on PC, either via Game Pass or just Steam. Also, you can get cheap keys on CD keys.
Yep.
Yeah, I think you read that wrong. I think you said what I said.
No, I don't think so.
I'm going to have to align myself with the host here, Pest. Sorry. Only because I want to annoy you.
Good luck. I agree with you.
But no, it's opened up some fun conversations in chat. Yes.
Well, it's one of those things that enough people have accepted it, so that's the way it is now. And whether you like it or not, that's what it costs.
Yeah. You can sit there and be annoyed and angry and frustrated about it, or you can find ways to be smart about it. And
you can rush over to the PS4, get your £5 out your pocket, and you can buy What Remains of Edith Finch. That's what you should do.
I think for Pest to be on this show, you should just gift it to him.
I've played that game.
Have you? Good.
Yeah, of course I have. Yeah, it was all right.
I haven't got all the achievements. I need to sort that out because people keep saying I love it that much. I've not played it in a long time.
Yeah, it was all right. It was all right. It's a very creative game that, wasn't that much fun to actually play.
Oh, I thought it was
pretty cool.
No,
you're wrong though.
At the end of the day, Mr. Stubbs, right? It's okay to debate it, but as a person and in today's society, you cannot be in the business of trying to convince anybody.
Everyone has their own opinion, which is nice. It's fair enough.
An opinion is always destructive. It's always divisive, and it's always conflictive. And if you can just see for something for what it actually is, then you just observe it. And that's when you can sit back with a smile on your face.
Yeah. One thing I will say that the Indie Gamer has said, and he is right. PC has so many awesome deals on keys sites. You can buy different keys. He says you don't. Where was it? Sorry, I lost it now. PC has so many awesome deals on keys from sites. You don't have to pay through the roof. There's a website. I can't. Hang on a minute. He's got a website he gave me, and it literally does all the deals. I'll see if it's still on there.
It's true. It's
Where is
true.
it?
Stuff like Humble Bundle, etc.
It's on my phone. It's not on this PC. It's on my. I know. No, sorry. Here it is. It's called GG Game Deals. It goes through all the latest deals through all the websites. I think it's GG Deals. It goes through all the latest, and it keeps up to date with all the latest offers. What games are free, even what games are on sale. Apparently, Halo Master Chief Collection's on sale for £7.49 on the Microsoft Store. Apparently, historically low price. It tracks all of them, so you can get some bloody good deals. You can on the PC side of things.
Says so in the Magna Carta.
Yeah, I need to use this site more, to be honest, because it really is good.
Well, and the fact is, we
Yes.
all have too much to play, right?
We
All
do.
that-
Yeah.
That's what is so powerful about the immediate release and that water cool experience and everybody talking about it, right?
Yeah.
Because people are largely bored with games anyway. They just don't want to admit it.
Hot Shot Racing is
what's-
amazing. You want to play? Have you played that? Hot Shot Racing.
Yeah, I played that.
That's
pretty
fun.
cool.
I bought that recently. It's really, really good. I've
It really
managed
comes
to-
down to
Mr. Stubbs,
half the
can I-
fun of the game is to share the experience with other people and talk about it and their perspective on it and whatnot. And you miss out on that if you don't buy it on day one.
Exactly.
Mr. Stubbs, sorry, Mr. Pest, you just touched on something, and I don't know if you can elaborate because I know you're probably under the 10 Commandments or something, but or security protocol. I don't want you to break that or breach that, non-confidentiality and all that.
I'll do
But
the
you
best I
touched on
can.
some- But you touched on something in regards to people, and I'm paraphrasing it. People are bored with games; they just don't want to admit it. Can you elaborate on that a little more? Because I found that
Yeah,
quite
it's
interesting.
because they haven't discovered VR yet. See, if they
right.
did that, then they wouldn't be so bored. And it's 30 FPS is what's
I was
getting them down. They
expecting a
just don't
mature
know.
and intellectual response. And
Oh,
that
is that
falls
what you were
well short.
I
expecting?
knew that was
Mate,
coming.
you
You must have
sure.
read
I
my.
knew
You
that
must have
was
read my
coming.
name wrong. You must have read my name wrong. No,
No,
I
I think I read
really
the
do
tea-
believe that though.
I think
I
I read-
sincerely believe that people are bored because games have not evolved much in a long time. And what we've done is we have condensed these formulas that people recognize as powerful games, right? The Sony game formula, etc. And we have perfected them. And now they're leaning into cultural representation, for lack of a better word, to try to bring meaning and attention to these things because they're kind of running out of ideas and they don't know what else to do. And people are getting bored and they don't know what to do about it.
I
No,
disagree.
I'm not. I'm absolutely not going to hang myself by giving you examples.
Just so that I can understand your point a little bit more clearly. When you said that that the culture, they're leaning on cultural aspects. Do you mean in terms of Marvel IPs or something like that?
Are
or
you talking
alluding-
about big AAAs? Because the indie game space is massively creative.
I don't think so. I don't think so.
No,
How
no,
so?
no.
That's your opinion. That is.
No. How so though? What are they doing that's not been done?
Well, you'll find that a lot of the AAA games, when they come up with any new ideas, you'll find they've actually got the idea of an indie developer.
Name an idea though, bro.
Well,
I don't
big
know
games.
if that's true.
Big games don't. They play it safe. Big games don't generally take risks anymore. They play it safe.
No, come on. I'd say 200 odd million spent on a game that may or may not do well is a risk.
Well, that's
Which
a
game?
risk, but I'm on about
game?
entirely new things inside the game. They often take big risks.
Which game?
Not on about a specific game. In
There is
general.
no game. There is no. It's no.
A lot of the
there's
big
no game.
AAA games are copy and paste.
Well, we talked about this on your show, Mr. Stubbs, is that every game idea begets the next one. It's just a cycle. It's cyclical. I don't know if I don't. We've talked about this on the show before. I don't think Pest is saying something completely controversial. He's just making his point very. He's not even stressing his point. He's putting a stake instead of a stake in the heart, rather than sort of fondling the point, shall we say?
Yeah.
Which is probably something the chat's very used to.
The
Anyway,
VR, though. That's what it's about, the
I can't insult
VR.
Pest. I'll just insult the chat. But yeah, no, I think what look, I've played some indie games and I really enjoyed Hollow Knight, but it was because of the art style. It was because of the music. It was because of the gameplay. And I hadn't played a game like that for a long, 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 long time. But most game in terms of also in terms of its design, but there are many components that or facets or design elements that come together to produce a really good game. And there's far more that we can visibly see or comprehend. And the thing is that not many games bring excel in every aspect, right? Some people say Zelda's a fantastic, it should be the game of the year, but the biggest criticism about that game is that the story's not great. It's quite weak and so on and so forth. But I'm willing to forgive that given the fact that it does everything else to such a fantastic level. And I understand what Pest is saying. This is why I wanted him to elaborate a bit more, and please do so, because I think he's actually got a very good point he's making there, and I think it's definitely worth delving into, because unless we really look at things for what they really are, and we can't move forward, we can't evolve.
I don't know if you can evolve though. I think it's like doo-wop from the 50s or 60s. Okay, I think human consciousness focuses on things, and I think this is accelerated with something like Twitter, Facebook, whatever, any social media. X, sorry, I got it wrong. They changed it today. I think human consciousness will focus on a thing. It will focus on a flavor, and it will exhaust it. And I think it does that much quicker now with social media and the internet. And I think games as we know them have largely been explored and exhausted. The same reason that you don't see people creating music in the style of the 50s today is it's been done. Those waters have been charted. And I don't know where they could go next. But I feel like gaming as we know it has largely been charted. And at this point, something, maybe a story will speak to you. I think largely people are just excited about a thing because they have decided to be excited about a thing, and then they're going to share it.
I remember during the 90s, right? And there was a lot of kids in our school. We had a fantastic art studio. Not me, I'm terrible at it, but Jack Kirby was a really popular artist back then. I'm sure you guys are familiar with him, right? And everybody would try to draw in his style, right? And what I came to learn at that time, and I think and even back then, 30, 40 years ago, and this is obviously the time I'm alive. I don't want to talk about the 50s. I wasn't alive then. But what I want to say is that guidance for those that follow, especially if it makes a profit and if it's popular in pop culture and it's got a chance to bang. And the problem that you're having is that, yes, you can't say that games haven't evolved. And I think what Stubbs is saying, look, production values have, and they've gone up and they've cost more, and things are looking better. And I think what Pest, and forgive me if I'm wrong here because I want to put words in your mouth, I'd love to, an apple perhaps, toffee apple preferably, but what he is saying is that if you look at everything at the core, in terms of technology, in terms of what they're actually doing, it's a muchness, and that's something that's true 30 years ago, and it's truer today if it ever was back then, because of social media and because of how we're able to connect.
Yeah, I think social media accelerates the amount or the speed in which we're able to
again.
It accelerates the time we're able to explore something. Like a meme comes out, and then that sucker applies to art students and fishers, right? Everybody will use that meme. They will apply it to their own reality, right? So you see that. And I think to your point about production quality in games, there's been a long time since we had a leap, since when games went from 2D to 3D, and all of a sudden, okay, new possibilities, new things we can explore, new things we can focus on. So the production quality continues to ramp up to get the most out of this, right? But it's not really adding much anymore. And that's probably why I was so taken with VR.
Would you say in terms of fidelity, is that what you mean?
Yeah, I just think there's only so many things you can do with it. There's only so many stories you can tell. There's only so many gameplay mechanics you can create.
Yep.
And then as the new systems come out, they don't make new things possible. They just make the same thing look better.
Yep. Production values. Yep. Fair enough. I can't disagree with that.
Which is why I like VR so much.
Stubbs, you
It's
haven't fallen asleep, have you?
No, I'm just hearing you debate and listening to what Pest is saying and you.
we're
Actually,
pretty
not
much saying the
debating,
same thing.
We're actually agreeing, and that's the problem I'm having. This is just becoming an echo chamber.
Where's
and I'm quite
Removal? We need
disappointed.
him to come in there and disagree. Because
He comes and says, "No,
He's
stop
not very good at
talking,
that.
everybody."
He's not very good at that. I've heard him disagree. I disagree. He's not very good at that.
It's such a pertinent point for him because all he'll say is, "I disagree." I hope
You
you're
know,
not
to
listening.
anyone's credit, I've seen
one thing
Indy say
VJ
multiple
hates.
times.
One thing VJ hates is when someone disagrees with him. Then he won't. Then the person won't say why.
But I would argue then that they probably are not comfortable defending the ground that they've chosen to stand on, right? Indy's saying he's reinforced the fact several times that he's not bored, and that he thinks that games can still evolve based on what's currently available. I'm glad he thinks so. He says so. I definitely disagree with that. There's of course influence,
just
which
trying
only
to
makes
be
games better,
Yes,
bring mashups, new ideas, twists on genres. I don't disagree with what Indy's saying, and he's clearly not bored, but I am.
it's just that you'll find that our chat likes to be is fashionably brazen.
It depends on the game, right? I would say
Well,
at this point,
I think it's the game, and again, I'll go back to something I said towards the beginning of the show. It's you just never know when any given game will capture your imagination, and sometimes it's very hard to pin down as to why it's doing so. But what I will say, and I'm glad because sometimes I am bored, but sometimes there is a game like Zelda, for example. I'm not saying it's for everybody because I don't really know anyone other than perhaps Luke who's playing it. It just caught me, and I can't put it down, and I can't explain exactly why, other than the fact that it has a spirit about it, but also that I found that I don't know how to really define this because I probably need some more thinking time before I talk about it. But it's managed to unlock a few things within me as well in terms of what I'm taking away from it. But it's probably a completely different chat about it entirely. But yeah. There's a lot of unnoticed beauty in it, which and that's a bit of a flippant comment there, but I don't know how else best to put it right now.
I would like to say I'm probably speaking overly absolute because clearly my opinions are just my own, and I understand that there's a lot of people that don't agree with me at all, and it's not them defending poor ground. It's true for them. Right?
Yeah.
So I want to make very clear to the people that disagree with me, I agree with them, right? I'm glad that they're not bored. I'm glad that they think that these genres still have a lot of room to play. And I'm not saying that absolutely there's nothing that ever speaks to me anymore, because it does from time to time, and Firewatch was very powerful for me, and it didn't do anything revolutionary. It just had the story that spoke to me. And then largely my interest these days actually falls to more of a sandbox simulation. I like developers to create a world that I can play in, and I like that world to play with itself, right? I like Red Dead Redemption 2 in that way, where you could come into town and watch everybody move around. I want to live in a simulated experience more than I want to have a story told to me.
Yep, and I guess I feel the same way about movies. I don't watch them anymore.
No, I can't remember the last movie I watched.
To be fair, I don't watch movies very often either.
I'll be right back. I'm going to run and get a drink. I'll be right back.
They don't do anything anymore that really, for me, I haven't seen anything that's really said to me, wow, that's a vision, that's creative, that's culturally, cultural providence or whatever you want to call it. There's nothing out there that depicts or that creates a positivity in me in terms of, what, I'll go and spend that $50 to watch that in the cinema. It's it's very much reactive in terms of, well, let's put it this way: it doesn't open up heaven's door for me, or the gate, if you prefer.
That's fair enough. I just don't. I mainly watch TV series and stuff like The Apprentice and stuff like that. But an old TV like Only Fools and Horses and Faulty Towers and things like that.
Yeah.
I do.
I think I'm not sure if this is what you was trying to say, but Stubbs, I think just to go back to your point, I think what you're saying is that big games won't take as many risks as say indie games, and that's why perhaps indie games seem to, perhaps for a specific audience, have that sort of ingenuity about them, that flavour.
I mean, obviously sometimes they do take risks. You just they will play it.
They won't stray too far from a given formula.
No. You have to look at Ubisoft to see that, but there is a lot of innovation. I don't know what.
Like what?
I can't.
I know, because there's not, though.
I've not got a big. If you had indie game on it, it'd be a different case. You know what I mean?
No, I don't think so. I think indies get a lot of credit for being creative in ways that they're not. It's because they're smaller and brighter and will do things the bigger games won't do. But
they've got freedom to do what they like and they wish to do, not what they're told to do.
Yeah, but there's only so many things you can do with a game. You know what I mean? There's limitations that I don't see the creativity.
I've not. I have. Have you ever played a game called Immortality?
I've not.
Look it up on YouTube.
I'll take a quick look here.
It's very unique. Like indie game was saying, that's very unique. I've looked at it. It does look good. In fact, I think that's in Game Pass. It was in Game Pass anyway. If it ain't now, Immortality. I think it's one of Luke's favourite games. It's really good. From what people are saying, everyone I know who's played it, they've really liked it.
Okay, I'm looking at it. I can't really tell what it is. It looks like a full motion video experience.
It's something like but it is unique for a game, you see. But you'd obviously probably have to try and play it or look up a video of it or something.
Yeah, a quick glance at a YouTube video doesn't tell me anything about the game.
Just play it then. Play it.
Yeah, I don't think I will. But yeah, it looks like some kind of full motion video experience. It probably is interesting. It probably, it's certainly different than anything AAA people are doing, for sure.
Yeah, it definitely is. But yeah, there's thousands of games out there. There is. Everyone enjoys something different. I do, but I've been enjoying Hot Shot Racing at the minute. I have. I tried it once on Xbox. When it was on Game Pass, I never really did very well because I'm not that good at racing games in general. But on the PC, I've been doing alright. I'm normally quite crap on the normal mode, but I've won 2 Grand Prix so far, so I'm not doing too bad on the game on PC. So it's £1.59, so it's on sale still. So it's a good deal really. It is. Having fun with that I have. I bought Flower as well. I did try that. I bought a couple of others. I missed it. There was some titles I wanted to buy. Something messed up with my bank, my end, when I was ordering games off Steam, and the bank withheld the money, and it was my fault. In the end, it turned out I messed up the order, not Steam. But I've learned how to do it now on Steam. I don't know how I messed it up, but hopefully there's always sales on Steam anyway, and there is. But that was a massive sale. That was. I was just pleased the Hot Shot Racing was still on sale, because that's a really good game. But I need to keep playing it because Masuka keeps telling me to go into the harder modes. There's some really fun challenges. I was like, currently doing them on normal. When I get a little bit better, I may try and go to the harder stuff. Try and get better first. I'm not very good at racing games. As most of the chat will know, I'm terrible at racing games. But not doing too bad in this Hot Shot Racing. It's pretty fun. The music's good in it as well. Sounds like 80s, 90s, really retro music. It sounds really old, but it's good. It is so far. Yep, you have to race me on Steam, Daz. Kick my ass. That's what it'll be. But yeah, it's been a fun chat tonight, guys. Thanks for coming on. It's been fun tonight. Thanks for coming on A Friendly Pest. It's always good to catch up with you. And you've now been on a gaming conversation with friends because you were telling me you haven't been on. So now you've been on.
I've been on. It went fast too.
You did 2 hours.
Yeah, and it flew by. I had a good time. I enjoyed the conversations. We didn't touch very many of the topics that you listed, I don't think.
I did mention that when we do topics, because I do topics, but we don't often get to them as such. This happens. This is the way the show rolls.
I'm all right with it.
People got used to it. It's why I wasn't going to put any topics in, but I thought I sent you them and said we probably won't get to most of this. But I put them in because VJ sometimes.
Pest, what he's saying, he revels in the abuse of his own power.
Yep.
That's what he's trying to say.
We will get you on again when RemovableSanity's back, when you can. Because
I'm okay with it.
Love to see VJ agree with you, then Removal going, no, don't agree with you.
But sometimes it's difficult on a podcast when we're speaking when there's too many people because
that's why I keep the numbers low.
What I find is that we sometimes speak to cross purposes and we're actually agreeing but just coming at it from a different perspective, and sometimes on a podcast it's very different rather than face to face. I'm somebody old fashioned, speak on the phone, speak face to face. It's I just find it a lot easier. I actually found it quite difficult for a period of time to actually do a podcast without seeing the other person. It's just I'm a bit like Pest really. I don't really want people to know too much about me, or see me, let alone see me. I don't want
Mr. Tucci, by mistake, Mr. Tucci once seen you through a reflection when he was helping you set up the Series X.
Yeah, but I was wearing my Majora's mask at the time, you see.
Yeah, he was helping you.
Sorry, it's just a Zelda quip there, but probably not a lot of people probably got that, but never mind.
No, I didn't. But anyway, thanks for coming on. It was good of you to come on.
Basically, say, can you get off next? I need to go to bed. That's what he's trying to say, Pest. Just in case you're not up to
I understand. But I told you I was coming on grumpy. And I think I did that.
You did.
No, you didn't. You were actually quite pleasant to speak to compared to most of the guests we have on this show.
Oh, which guest did you like the least, VJ?
Hang on. We don't have many.
I can't disclose.
Hang on. We've only had on this show BMG, Luke Steele, and Masuki. So which one? We haven't had many guests.
Luke Steele.
Did you put a voice effect on then, the way you said it?
No, that was just me, bro. Like Luke Steele. No, it's just me. See?
I like all of them.
I got all kinds of range, bro.
It's probably that he's probably talking about the host. Don't worry, Pest. Yes, but Luke Steele's got a cool name. Luke Steele. Such a cool name.
It is. It's an awesome name.
It's like a superhero name or something. It's not... A lot of people don't believe it's his real name, He told me. I think it's like an online name.
Maybe that's why it's the perfect disguise.
Exactly.
So basically, my takeaway is that Pest thinks that game development, game creativity, game production is all very anemic, and it should just all go in the bin. Unless it's VR production.
You know what? For the sake of fun, I'm going to agree. But no, I still have hopes for games, right? Just the fact that I'm generally bored with much of what's going on, most of the conversation, and that goes for like the drama of it too, not just the games. I'm generally bored with the gaming community, right? They argue over the same dumb stuff every day, and they never get anywhere with it. Meanwhile, I just want Starfield. You know what I mean? So not very often a game will come along and I'll get excited about it, but when I do, it's a fun thing. And I like to become aware of the fact that I'm excited about something and then just enjoy the process of being excited about it. And I envy the people that are able to do that more regularly than myself. So while I come off as grumpy, really, I'm envious.
I don't think you come off as grumpy. I'm not sure where you get that notion from. Look, I've been gaming a long time. I'm sure you have too, and there's no doubt I've felt the same way as you. There's been periods of time when I haven't gamed for 6 months at a time, even a year at a time, and then suddenly something comes along. Perhaps it's Starfield, perhaps it's Spider-Man, perhaps it's, dare I say it, Edith Bloody Finch, which always gets a mention on this show. I'm surprised Gears hasn't been mentioned today. My goodness.
Yes, I didn't want to mention it, but we're not going to mention it. We've mentioned
You know what?
it now.
That would make a fantastic VR game. That would be so good in VR.
There, it's a system seller. Get Gears on get in VR, and I might buy a headset.
We just need hours for me to explain to you guys how wonderful it is, and we don't have the time.
But no, I think thanks for coming on today, Pest. And no, I think you've had some. I think you've been very thoughtful in your comments today, and I've taken a lot from it, and it's helped me round out some of my thoughts and so on and so forth. And yeah, it's been good, better than I thought, because I'm sure I've been on a podcast with you before.
I'm sure.
Oh, you know, I thought, you know.
I mean, sorry, I think he's been on midweek. Have you been on midweek gaming before? I'm sure.
I don't know. How would I know that?
I can't remember.
Recall. I'd like to respond to Indy. Indy said, "I respect your honesty. Shame to hear you're not enjoying the indie goodness." I believe I lack the patience to properly enjoy the indie goodness.
Hang on a minute. All the VR games are indie games.
VR does give indie games, but not nearly the amount of indie games that the indie gamer himself is taking a look at, right? Because there are so many indie games. If I had a curated list, right? Because I just don't have the time to look at them all, even just as a YouTube video, to see what I want to try, right? And then there's less indie games, of course, make it to VR, but VR is largely indie games. If I had a list of things, you know, you must check this out, you know, and I would try it and I would probably like it, but I am not motivated to overcome the challenge of finding them.
That's fair. That's fair, but indie gamer's got some great videos with him in.
He does. You know, I do watch when he streams, and if I'm available when he's streaming, I drop in. I don't get to do that very often for very many. I try to drop in on Daz. I try to drop in on Indie, but I have so little free time when it comes to that sort of thing. I often miss it. But I do try. Is my favorite part of the gaming community? I came to Twitter or X. I came to these just for the news, right? I wanted to find it's the quickest way to access the information on the thing you're interested in, right? And you're going to get a little bit closer to the source also than relying on some third party to find it and then put up a magazine article or link and then beat your way through the ads to get to the information you want, etc. The friendships I've made on Twitter, I do value. And I know I don't know the people personally, but the people that take time to interact with me, I have grown to appreciate them and care about them and wish them the best, and I want to support them in ways when I can. And, you know, a lot of your audience today fills out that list of people that I have grown to consider real friends as much as you can over social media.
Present company excluded.
You know, I like you too, VJ.
Please don't. I think people are all fine. Trust them as far as you can throw them, but you can't retire on them.
That's fairly true. Unless they sign up for your Patreon, which I have. Link in the description.
Yeah, people will always disappoint you in the end, I'm afraid, sir. And the problem is you shouldn't be surprised because there's a logic in there.
Well, I tell you what, though, you're correct. But when you get tired of the stories,
this guy is so annoying. He keeps agreeing with me, Stubbs. I'm gonna have to have a word with you after this show.
Relationships with humans eventually becomes the only thing interesting left.
You and VJ should do your own podcast together.
Well, I'm just saying,
interesting conversation.
When it comes to games or movies, you know, clearly I've lost interest in a lot of the stories that are available to tell, and the only thing that will drive me in usually is a relationship with a character. You know, I didn't love Halo because we were saving the world. I liked the Master Chief and Cortana. And, you know, for example, when they took them away from Halo 5, primarily you were playing as this other squad, et cetera, and so on. The game didn't interest me at all. You know, and it's probably why I've never shown any real interest in a Call of Duty story. You know, there's no real strong relationships in those. So, you know, pulling away from that and then talking about humans again,
Yeah.
even though I'm not good at it, and even though I don't have that many friendships, I've started to value them more, even if I don't expect the result to be favorable.
No, because see, the thing is, this is the problem with VR. You construct and create something in your mind and you make it real when it doesn't actually really exist. Because in 50 years, we'll all be dead and no one will care less.
We'll see.
Right, we're going to end on that. I'll try and end the show for the second or third time. Thanks for coming on, A Friendly Press. Can you tell people where they can find you?
Yep, A Friendly Pest on YouTube and X, though I'm not very active on social media anymore. I do put up 3 videos a week on my YouTube channel, mostly VR content, but some product reviews, and I've got a couple products I'm looking at right now. I recently got a haptic vest and a set of X-Real AR glasses, bought both with my own money. I'll be doing product reviews on those when I have more experience with them in the time, but if anybody wants to check out a ton of VR content that's more about how I feel that day than the game I play, check out A Friendly Pest on YouTube.
Nice, thanks for coming on. Please make sure you follow and subscribe to A Friendly Pest. And VJ, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on, Mr.
Oh, I'm probably not even going to say it. Do you want to tell people where they can find you?
No.
No, I didn't think so. He says this every time. So, thanks for coming on, VJ, anyway.
Yeah, no worries. And I just want to say, Pest, thanks for coming on. You were far more entertaining than I thought you might be. I thought you might just be extremely an impudent swine and completely annoying, but you weren't.
I am glad to have exceeded your very low expectations, sir.
You're welcome.
Thanks for coming on, VJ, and A Friendly Pest. You can find me at stubzgaming on I nearly said on Twitter. You can find me at stubzgaming on the social platform called X, apparently now. You can find me on YouTube at stubzgaming. Rumble, I am on there, stubzgaming 01, I think, and that's about. And if you want to listen to the show on audio platforms, we're on basically every audio platform available. So, thanks for tuning in, everyone. Indie Gamer, Masuku, Back from the Dead. Loads and loads. There's been loads of names in tonight. Stinking Corpse was in as well, I think. Loads of names tonight. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. And we'll see you all